Have you ever stood near an aircraft being refueled at an airport and noticed the smell drifting across the tarmac, distinct from the petrol smell at a normal filling station? Jet aircraft do not run on petrol at all. They run on a refined form of kerosene, the same broad family of fuel once burned in oil lamps, and the reason traces back to a specific engineering failure that forced an industry-wide switch within a remarkably short window. Early jet engine development in the 1930s and 40s initially used aviation gasoline, the same broad category of fuel that powered propeller aircraft of the era, because it was already manufactured at scale and well understood. Aviation gasoline is highly volatile, meaning it evaporates and ignites easily at low temperatures, which is precisely the property that makes a piston engine's spark ignition work efficiently at ground level. But here's the surprising truth. That same volatility became a serious liability the moment jet aircraft began operating at the altitudes their engines were actually designed for. At cruising altitude, temperatures regularly fall to -50 degrees Celsius or lower. Aviation gasoline's high volatility, useful at ground temperature, meant it was prone to vapor lock at these extreme cold conditions, where the fuel partially vaporizes within the fuel lines, creating gas bubbles that block the steady flow an engine needs. Pilots and engineers documented engine flameouts and unreliable fuel delivery traced specifically to this altitude-related vapor formation, undermining confidence in gasoline almost as soon as jets began flying real operational routes. Kerosene behaves completely differently under these conditions. It has a much lower volatility and a significantly higher flash point, meaning it requires substantially more heat before it will vaporize or ignite. At the extreme cold of cruising altitude, kerosene remains reliably liquid and flows consistently through fuel lines without the vapor formation that plagued gasoline. It also carries more energy per unit of volume than gasoline, meaning an aircraft can carry the same flying range using a smaller fuel tank, or a longer range using the same tank size. Think of it like choosing a candle wax that needs to remain solid and stable across a far wider range of conditions than a household candle would ever encounter, rather than one that melts easily for convenience at room temperature. Gasoline was the convenient wax. Kerosene was the wax that held its form under conditions nobody had fully tested for until aircraft were already flying through them. So, if kerosene was clearly the safer choice at altitude, why did it take an active failure, rather than simply better testing, to force the switch? The answer, as is often the case in the early history of any new technology, comes down to how rapidly jet aircraft moved from experimental prototypes into operational military and commercial use during and immediately after the Second World War. Engineers were solving the most urgent problems as they emerged in real flight conditions, rather than exhaustively testing every fuel property in advance, because the pace of wartime aviation development left little room for that kind of caution. Once vapor lock incidents at altitude were documented clearly enough to be undeniable, air forces and manufacturers moved quickly toward kerosene-based fuels, and within roughly a year, the switch had become the accepted standard across most jet operations, rather than a contested choice. So, the next time you catch the specific smell of jet fuel near an airport, you are smelling the fuel that won not through laboratory superiority alone, but because the alternative failed at exactly the altitude it needed to succeed at, in aircraft that were already in the air when the failure became impossible to ignore.